Dr. Akiva Gamliel, Belk, Dean of Jewish Studies at Noach Torah Institute, LLC. Welcome to Vayikra Tzav. That's Parshat Vayikra Tzav, the second Parshat of Leviticus. We're going to be studying, God willing, Leviticus chapter 6, verse 1 through chapter 8, verse 36. We're going to center on the word Tzav, which is the gematria of 96. The Tzadi is 90, the Vav is 6. And that means command. Now, it doesn't only mean command, but that's one of the words that it means. And if you look at the word mitzvah, tzva is the center letters. And if you look at the word mitzvot, which is plural of mitzvah, the two center letters are tzva. So we recognize that the word tzva is used in other words throughout Ha Torah. However, this is the very first time that the word tzva is used, just the Sadi and the Vav. Now, we've already seen over 130 mitzvot, positive and prohibitive, discussed in Ha Torah. So we come to this particular place, and this is where the Creator chooses to have this Parshat named after the command. The other day ago, the Rebbitzin and I were traveling down the road, and we were discussing this Parshat. And I asked the Rebbitzin, what comes to your mind when I say the word mitzvah, mitzvot, tzva? And she said, command. And so that was an easy one. That's what I expected her to say. That's what I would expect any rabbi or rebbitzin or person knowledgeable of Ha Torah to say. However, dear ones, when we look at the word, there is actually more than one meaning. It's command, order, need, law, precept. And so it's real important for us to grasp what I'm trying to share here. In Genesis 2:16, there are 7 mitzvot that God gave to govern the entire universe. When we look at Genesis 2:16 in the commentaries of the Chumashim and in other places, for the most part, we don't see anything whatsoever relating to the 7 commands. Some say there's 6. And so we have to ask, well, this is so important because they govern our entire world, every country, every city, every town, every people, every home, every individual. And so it's very important. And so this causes us to realize that we need to take a look at the word precept more so than command. We know that the Lord God had to share the precepts with Adam and with Chava, with Eve, that he had to explain to them, expound to them what the meanings were of the 7 laws. We also know that when God created the world, our sages teach that he used 10 words to create the world. And we have to study these words to understand what they represent. They have to be expounded to us. They have to be explained so that we get the full understanding of how the word went and developed into many things. You know, God says, let there be light. That was a revelation of light. That was a revelation of himself. But all that we hear is et haor. And so we need help in understanding the precept. We need help in understanding the explanation of what all is taking place. We know that the 10 commands, the Torah clearly says there are 10 commands, and so we have 10 words. And we have to look at each word. They have to be expounded to us so that we can understand what each word represents. And this is how we come up with the 10 commandments. So when we look at all of this, it's very important because we're trying to understand the word command, the word tzva. We know that the gematria of tzva is 96. We also know that the gematria of v'yadiu, which means and he or she should know is the gematria of 96. And so the center of mitzvah, the center of mitzvot, the center of so much is the word tzva, precept. And the precept has to be taught. Okay? And so we recognize the need for teaching. So we must ask this question. When a husband is speaking with his wife, it's really important that he doesn't come across in a hard way or a commanding way, like command or order, the tone of his voice and his actions. If there's an issue that they need resolved, it's necessary to sit down and for the husband to study the precept and to make sure he understands it carefully, to go over it with his rabbi, and then to sit down with his wife and to share the precept with his wife. How can you tell someone they need to do something? I don't like to use the word tell or order or command. That's exactly what we're trying to get away from here. Okay? So how can you share with someone that they need to do something? You do it by not commanding, not demanding, not ordering, but by sharing a Torah precept, explaining a Torah precept. And then allow the individual to make the choice. Allow the individual to choose to do some research, to study. And if they don't get it, oh my goodness, God came down and he saw the people of the world, and we were all one language, and we were really going in the wrong direction. Even though we all could communicate with each other, we were going in the wrong direction. And so the Lord confused the languages, and he confused the words. And so here we are. We're human beings, and we're trying to communicate with each other, but the words that we choose sometimes just don't seem to work. And then we look at Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu fasted 3 times for 40 days and 40 nights. In fact, he fasted a total of almost 23 days continuously. And we know that Moshe was very dear to God. He was very dear to the Lord. And that he was the most trusted in his household. And that he was the greatest servant. And he had the greatest depth and understanding of Torah. But yet Moshe was still a long ways from understanding all the precepts and all the depths of the precepts that God has in Ha Torah. So we look at ourselves. Where are we? We're not on the level of Moshe Rabbeinu, and we don't have Moshe Rabbeinu's understanding, and yet we must be very careful because we recognize obstacles. Our words are confused, we have trouble explaining things, and so we have to be very careful, very delicate, and very gentle in how we present the precept to our spouse, that's husband or wife, and to our children, and to neighbors and friends. And if they don't seem to understand or get it, we have to look at ourselves and say, well, I'm having a hard time communicating this, and we have to study it more and take it upon ourselves and try to get it to where we can share it in a way that is crystal clear for individuals. Now, then it takes a while. Once a person really comes in contact with a precept, then it takes a while sometimes for it to work. And so he has to repeat it again and teach it again and repeat it again and teach it again. And eventually, God willing, it takes root. Now, when we see that the Bible talks about that Abraham commanded his house after him, we don't really want to look at the word command or order. We want to look at the word, and Abraham taught precepts to his house after him. So the whole point is Abraham was a teacher, he was an instructor, he shared the values, he shared the principles, he shared the Musar, he shared Ha Torah with his household. And that's what the Creator wants us to do. So, when we're talking about understanding the word command, tzva, what we're really talking about is going back to last week, that we must use soft tones, soft words, be gentle, be compassionate, be patient, and then to share the precept. Not to order, not to command, not to demand, but to share the precept, to teach the precept. And that's how we understand the word tzva. Thank you for joining with me.